I woke up early this morning to check that the technology that I'm using to run the gratitude quest is all working well, and I'm pleased to say that it is. And then as I was lying in bed and thinking about this episode, the experience of reading the gratitudes that people have shared became the inspiration for what I'd love to share with you today.
Welcome to the Henny Flynn podcast, the space for deepening self-awareness with profound self-compassion. I'm Henny. I write, coach and speak about how exploring our inner world can transform how we experience our outer world, all founded on a bedrock of self-love. Settle in and listen and see where the episode takes you.
Before I dive into that, I'll just let you know where I am. I'm back in my kitchen in the big comfy chair by the warm Aga, and Ronnie is lying by my feet. I mean, that sounds like rural idyll, doesn't it? It's a little bit chilly, and I'm kind of quite enjoying the feeling of that cool air on my skin. And I can hear the birds. I can hear the birds outside. So this feels very calm. It feels like a really warm and comforting, reflective place. And that's always my preference for recording the podcast, because it means that I can then sink into that warm, reflective place within me. So before I really dive into the things that were coming up for me when I was reflecting on, what to share today, I just want to apologise that, if you really love to listen to these episodes very first thing on a Saturday morning, then I'm sorry that it feels at the moment that Saturday morning is the time when I record them. And I think last week I sort of called it field to fork. I didn't have another phrase for it, but maybe it's more like thought to ear or heart to heart. So I'm recording them and then I'm sharing them straight away. And so it feels very immediate to me, this conversation with you, and maybe it feels immediate for you too, depending on when you listen. And, you never know. Normal service might resume once more, and I might return to recording them and sharing them early on a Saturday morning, or not. Who knows? But just to sort of acknowledge this shift that's happened very organically. And I'm going with it as I do with the podcast. I really allow myself a sense of freedom with this, and that feels to me that it works, and hopefully it works for you too. So today's prompt from the gratitude quest, and if you don't know what the gratitude quest is, it's a 21-day quest that began on Friday. And the idea is that each day I share a prompt to spark thoughts of gratitude, and every day they're very different. It's also really important that that these prompts aren't about circumnavigating the hard stuff in life, but really about being able to hold the pain and the magnificence of life simultaneously. And that's a huge part of what a gratitude practice helps us do. And actually I've written a field note which really explains some of the science of gratitude, which you might be curious about. So I'll put a link to that in my notes. But it's not really that I want to talk about today. What I want to share is some reflections that came up out of today's prompt. So, so Ronnie has obviously got bored with listening to me recording the podcast and has now gone upstairs to see Anton. Anyway, so today's prompt from the quest was name the things you're grateful for that you can feel. Maybe it includes texture, temperature, weight, noticing the nuance of sensation. And, I began today's reflection with you, just sort of sharing how grateful I am that I can feel the coolness of the air on my skin. And this experience of noticing the sensations of our body, the sensations of touch, can be such a powerful way of reconnecting our head with our body. So something that I've talked about here before and that I see often with the people who come to work one-to-one with me, and also I recognize it from myself too, is that so many of us have been conditioned to actually separate from the sensations of our body, and to prefer to be up in our heads, to be up in that analytical, problem solving, sort of processing part of our brain, and to perhaps even disregard the experiences that we're having in our body. So really kind of dulling feelings, sensations, emotions. And we do this for really valid reasons. We do it because emotion might feel scary or dangerous or unsafe in some way. I don't know if you can hear Ronnie's now running around again. Sorry about that. Or we do it because it's complicated. Emotion is complicated, or we're uncertain what to do with our feelings. And sometimes we learn this strategy when we're very little. Sometimes it's something that sort of that grows and deepens within us as we mature, and we gather evidence to us to assure ourselves that it's the right strategy for us. So when I was reading the gratitudes that people have been sharing this morning in response to the prompt, I was noticing the sort of amazing quality of expression of sensation that was coming through in the gratitudes. And it actually enabled me to have a higher awareness of other sensations that I had in my body. I was in bed, so I could feel the weight of the duvet on me. We have linen sheets, so I could feel that sort of slightly kind of rough, deliciously rough sort of feel of the linen. That's also simultaneously soft. It's a really curious sensation. I was also really aware of how, as I was reading the gratitudes, it was bringing me really sort of very firmly into my body and out of my head, thinking about, oh, is the technology working? Which was the reason why I went in to check it in the first place. So noticing these sensations can be a really beautiful way of reconnecting our head and body. And often in trauma work, it's used to support people to kind of come back into the body, to support us to, maybe there's a sort of history or a patterning of dissociation. And actually, when we can connect with the body, with the feelings of the body, it can really help us with that. And obviously, of course, what we don't want to do is overwhelm ourselves. We don't want to feel flooded with sensation. And so we can do it very gently. And, just noticing one thing that you're grateful for that you can feel. Maybe it includes its texture, its temperature, its weight. And noticing the nuance of that sensation can be enough. that can be the practice. Because also for many of us, and this might resonate with you too, that hypersensitivity can be very present as well. We can feel sort of hyper alert to all sensations, and we often see this discussed when we talk about neurodivergence and just the different ways that our brains work, the different ways that we each experience the world. We'll all have different responses to sensation, and we can have this sort of hyper alert to all sensations, including touch. The feel of things against our skin becomes very important. We might notice with children that they don't like the feel of certain clothes, which is entirely reasonable. And often as adults, we might dismiss it and just go, oh, come on, just put them on or put it on. But actually, for that individual, they're expressing a sensitivity to the feeling of something, and just sort of bypassing it can be a way of teaching and conditioning our children to bypass the sensations of their body. So I think it's a really interesting thing to pay attention to, and then not to kind of go into some terrible guilt trip because maybe that's what we did with our own children, but simply to recognize that there can be a conditioning in our society to override our awareness of these things, and to just to acknowledge, that's there, not with judgment, not with guilt, not with shame, but simply like, oh, okay, I get it. That's something that I have experienced or I have been party to, perhaps, or I have observed, um, and sort of along this theme. I think I've shared here before that at times when um, when I've been sort of struggling a little bit with my what I call the veil coming down, when I feel a sort of sense of disconnection. Um, my experience is that the veil comes down because my skin feels porous, and the veil is actually a form of protection, because it's almost like my skin is no longer a sufficient protective barrier against the experience of being in the world. Um, and and for me, that sense of porousness feels as though other people's emotions get through. Like I feel things so much more deeply inside me, and actually, the very natural response, and my learnt response, was to separate, for the veil to come down, or the sense of the veil to come down, and to separate and to distance myself from people or from the things that I felt were intruding. And I also recognize now that what that does is it can create isolation. And so learning how can we manage these experiences of our sensitivity to the world, or our loss of sensitivity to the world, can be really beautiful work. And I'm not going to sort of try and kind of answer that here, because that's very deep work. But really, I feel sometimes it's just useful to kind of air this in case any of this resonates with you. And maybe it sparks some more thoughts, or maybe we can simply hold it with compassion. We can simply say, oh, okay, other people experience this too. It's not just me. This is part of our human condition. And, and that in itself can be something that can help us hold something that might be feeling challenging or difficult in some way. And help us explore something maybe in a new way. And maybe even open a door to doing some deeper work, perhaps with someone like me or with a therapist, in order to sort of understand, okay, well, I think I am dissociating, or I think I am feeling things in a very intense way, or I don't really understand what I am feeling, and perhaps exploring that with the support of a guide who could help you understand what you're noticing more. Um, a sort of slightly tangential, but I think related point here is something that I really, really love, which is something that I once read, and I've tried to find like the root source where I read it, but I just can't find it anywhere. Pretty sure I haven't made it up, um, which is something about ancient Celts in so around the UK, and into sort of parts of Europe as well. The Celts had this concept of the thin places, and for them, a thin place was somewhere like the top of a hill or the top of a mountain, where the veil between sort of man and the gods was thinner. And for me, I sense that we all potentially might have an understanding of what it feels like to be in a thin place, where the barriers that we might have erected around us, they get thinner, and we can sense things more vividly. Um, and that could be sort of the barriers around us externally, or it could be the barriers within us. And I'm deliberately saying barriers rather than boundaries. And so when these barriers, when they feel thinner, um, we become more alert, more aware of the stuff that's outside of us. So um, maybe this deeper connection with the energies of the universe, maybe a deeper connection with nature, um, maybe a sort of sense of kind of wisdom that someone else is sharing with us, or we become, um, more alert, more aware of uh, the landscape within us. Um, Maybe our intuition, our inner wisdom, our instinct. They become more present, more vividly available to us, and it can be a time of great wisdom and learning and deep connection. And as I sit here now, it sounds really beautiful, and I've definitely had those experiences myself. And I recognize it can also be really painful when we're in that kind of place, because it can be a time of change, something shifting, and that can sometimes be uncomfortable. Often it's uncomfortable, or it might be that we're in an uncomfortable phase or part of our life, and that is what enables that thin place to arise. Um, so kind of, I think this is all sort of part of really paying attention to what it is that we're feeling, and I feel that our body is one of our kind of greatest guides here. So even simply paying attention to the sensation of touch, and how does it feel to put my hand down, um, even like upon my own arm, or upon the arm of the chair, which is what I'm doing right now, the arm of the chair that I'm sitting in, and touch this very old French. I don't even know how you describe it. It's like a really beautiful piece of fabric which has got needlework all over it. And it's one of those kind of classic um, pieces of sort of what I would call kind of French like household linen or fabric. And I remember buying it, so it's imbued with memory. I can feel how soft it is on my skin. I can feel the ridges of the stitching underneath my hands, and it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful to connect with this. And ordinarily, I just sit in this chair. Like, I don't do this. I don't sit and really pay attention. And of course, as I'm really paying attention, my interoception, my awareness of what else is happening within my body, it starts to um, it starts to sort of get activated. It starts to tell me other things. And so, this can be a really incredible part of mindfulness, basically. I mean, that's really what I'm talking about. Um, and acknowledging the truth that sometimes things feel really overwhelming. Sometimes when we have this kind of high sensitivity, this high awareness to what is on our skin or what our hands are making contact with, it can feel really challenging. And so naming things becomes our ally here. This is sort of one thing that I'd really love to share now. So similar to the rain mnemonic, which you might be familiar with from people like Tara Brach. So RAIN is recognize, allow, investigate, nourish, or nurture. Some people use slightly different words, but essentially it's that. So the practice being, name what's coming up inside you, name the emotions that are coming up, allow them to be there, investigate where their source might be, and nourish, nurture the feelings, be kind to them. So surgeons and soldiers are also taught a similar practice. I mean, it feels interesting to sort of bring sort of soldiers into this, but it's true, they are, which is to name the actions that they take in order to allay their fears. And this is something which is often used in a kind of therapeutic sense to support us if we're experiencing anxiety or high stress or panic attacks. To actually simply name the action that we are taking. And it could be, I am getting up from the chair. I am crossing the room. I am going up the stairs. I am washing my hands. I am picking up the bar of soap. Really specifically naming the experience or the actions that we're taking, and what we're noticing in the space around us can be very helpful in re-grounding ourselves. And in sort of psychology, it's called verbal grounding. And I think that there's a connecting thread to this with the gratitude practice. But before I name that, I just want to, there's another sort of memory has come up for me, which is, again, I've shared before that I had a panic attack. This is a few years ago now, at a really beautiful place near here in Wales, and it's a waterfall called Water Breaks Its Neck. And it's incredibly dramatic. It's got ancient forest, it's got a mountain, it's really, really beautiful. It's, my idea of like somewhere I just love to be. And attempting to climb up an extremely muddy, I mean, it was like nothing I'd ever seen before. An extremely muddy hillside, which had very few like focal points. It had like a tree and then maybe a blade of grass. That was it. I had a panic attack. I'm not going to sort of go sort of deep into it now, but I'm very happy to. But just it feels like it's too much of a segue. And in the experience of that, what I noticed was that some part of me innately understood that what I needed to do was talk myself through what I was noticing. And so I heard myself say, my hands are deep in the thick mud. I can feel the earth beneath the mud. I can feel my knees on the ground. I can feel my head bent down. I can feel the tears on my cheeks. And this part was helping me and naming what I was noticing. And it was that enabled me to come back online, to come back into my body, to stop feeling as though I was going to fall off the earth, which was how it was feeling. It was terrifying. Um, and and then from there, I was able eventually to get myself off this hillside, with the very kind and gentle support of Anton, who didn't try and intrude, but just enabled me to make my way. And all was well, and it was a fantastic learning experience, that is for sure, and really helped me relate to the clients who've said that they've experienced panic attacks. And the memory of that ability to name what I was noticing has stayed with me. And I think that this is one of the reasons that a gratitude practice can be so powerful. And like I said, there's so much research, there's so much science, but so this is just the pole of one. My observation might resonate with you too. Is that when we are writing a gratitude practice, we are naming things out loud in a way. When in writing is a way of naming things out loud. And we're being really observant about what we are noticing around us. And I was saying to Anton yesterday is that I recognize that when I'm deep in my daily gratitude practice of writing 21 things a day, which does ebb and flow, but which is okay. But when I'm deep in it, I'm constantly scanning for things that I might include, lovely little tidbits that I might notice through my day. And that obviously means that I am more alert to things that I am grateful for. And of course, when that starts to build a positive feedback loop within our system. So rather than scanning for things that make me feel afraid or make me feel alone or make me feel sad or make me feel hurt or make me feel frustrated or whatever it is that might be going on, I'm also scanning for the things that make me feel joyful, hopeful, give me a sense of presence, purpose, connection. And so, with the gratitude quest and the amazing people that have signed up for that, it's nearly 300 people are following this quest right now. And I'm really sorry if you weren't able or didn't have time to join, because the doors are closed. But I will be sharing something once the quest completes that might be interesting for you. But in the quest, we're sharing in our private quest space, we're sharing a gratitude in response to that day's prompt. So not the full 21 or the full 3 or the full 7, however many everybody is writing, but we're sharing one thing. And that is a way of being heard. My feeling is that this practice has far-reaching benefits, and even if all that we take from it is to be able to connect with the joyful things, the hopeful things in the world around us, in a more meaningful way, well, golly, wouldn't that be a wonderful thing? And even if what it does is enables us to reconnect with our bodies in a more attentive, kind, compassionate, aware way, well, gosh, wouldn't that be a wonderful thing? So I'm now going to make coffee, and I send you a hug and a wave and my gratitude for being here today.